Yes, I was in that same email.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, the big appointment of a senior office assistant in the police department.
Yeah, so we don't ordinarily do these at work sessions, but the list expires tomorrow, and then we mean we have to wait several more weeks to recanvass the list and all of that. But we did have a secretary of the police department retire, and the chief, lieutenant, and Karen interviewed the candidate that's listed here. She's from the civil service list, so recommending her appointment.
So did they know at the time that the person was going to retire? I mean, it seems like, sorry, this seems like some reason someone's calendar was as effective as mine.
It was relatively short notice.
Yeah.
So
The wording of the probationary period seemed a little odd to me. It seemed like it.
not less than 12 weeks, not more than 52 weeks.
Well, it says there is a completion of a probationary
Oh,
period.
I'm sorry, yeah, that's probably a little bit.
But it just looked
A little bit,
like
but
the next time, right?
it's subject to a completion
Right.
of a probationary
Right.
period of not less than and not more.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll correct that.
I happen to.
No, it's a
When
little,
you're dead, you're dead.
it's a little,
Larry was rushing the whole thing through.
Except
I'm not objecting to this, but is there any chance that this candidate is bilingual?
I don't think we asked. We do
Because I
have,
thought that wasn't the other secretary bilingual?
No.
No, who was? Somebody was bilingual.
I don't know, we have two in.
In the
clerk's-
office
in the clerk's
upstairs.
office, yeah, maybe
Okay.
3 actually.
Be it resolved that Luis Nimchek is hereby appointed to the position of Senior Office Assistant, Police Department, effective December 3rd, 2018, at an annual salary of $53,479, subject to satisfactory background check, subject to a completion of a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 52 weeks. I'll make a motion if I get a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Did you read it?
Well, right now,
Do we have another?
I have
I'm
another one.
doing
upstairs,
better
yeah.
right now, so far, as long as
I'm sorry, I didn't know you.
everybody's.
You can also huddle up better,
Yeah,
because it's going to be,
Larry, when you
twice the
sit
count.
back like that, I can't hear you. I don't know, because I can't see you and I
I'll
can't
sit
hear
in
you.
circle.
I'll lean forward. when
Yes,
I'm-
right, or either, right, get him out of the way, he's blocking the sound.
Speaking of droning on,
Droning, got it.
a review of draft local law regarding the use of drones. I was very happy we got Lewisboro to start us on our way.
Yeah, well, that's what the difference is between the two of these. The first one, you said you liked Lewisboro, so that's what the first one is.
what are we looking at?
So this is like for later.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's for later.
No,
no,
I
it's
I jumped the gun.
Hold on.
Yes,
Anyway.
forget
We
it.
don't need this.
No, you don't, I'm sorry.
Keep it.
No, I jumped the gun.
Okay, so back to drones. Okay,
Yeah.
we got drones.
There's not a whole lot of difference between the two options. Well, obviously one is shorter than the other. The first one is the one from Lewisboro, because you said that's the one you wanted. But the second one, I just think so. I just thought it was a little bit clearer.
What is it?
This
Is it all the same one? Oh, no, this is not all
This
the
is the
same.
whole thing. I mean, this is the whole.
Two options.
Two options, 13 on the top, no person shall launch or land any airborne remote controlled aircraft, including but not limited to model airplanes, model helicopters, drones, rockets, or gliders in any park within the village, except such crafts that are registered with the Irvington Recreation and Parks Department may be launched and landed in whatever park, if you want to let it, during the months of December, January, February, and March, okay? The next one
Oh, that's in this.
defines, okay, or it says
Yeah,
drones
right.
and other remote controlled aircraft shall be regulated as follows, and then they define. Then it says, except as provided in these lab C and D, no person shall launch or land any drone or airborne remote controlled aircraft, including but not limited to model airplanes, model helicopters, rocket gliders in any park within the village. that they may be launched or landed in wherever during the months of December, January, February, March, provided they're registered with the Irvington Recreation and Parks Department. There's also the exception, which I think is probably a good idea to have in it, that it doesn't apply to the lawful use and operation of drones by any federal, state, county, or municipal agency. It should be, because if somebody's going to challenge it, then that would be one of the things. And then, I don't know, if E would be the one that a provision that permitted the board of trustees to permit an exception, or somebody to permit an exception, because let's say,
I don't think it's a bad idea, because if someone's filming a movie, or you even want them to use it for something that, not a
Survey.
emergency, yeah, or something, there's
Yeah.
a reason why you want to have it.
But this is only limited to the parks, though, right? I mean, this says nothing
we're
else
only-
about the rest of the airspace of the village.
right, no, well, yeah, you can really only regulate it on village property.
And not on our easements, like over the roads.
Yeah, but I thought you said you just wanted to do it for the parks.
Clear, that's all.
Yeah, no, this just is the parks.
I think we should
Because
have
I
an
thought
exception.
that was what the concern.
I like the possible exception. I mean, I can imagine some reasons why the park might need, or we might want to permit it on some day. Maybe it's closed for other purposes, I don't know, but.
So I missed the work session where we talked about this, so just so I understand, and I'll try to speak loud.
No, that's good, that's good. Don't yell, whatever you know, but do it.
My understanding was that the recommendation by RPAC was to temporarily not allow any drones in parks.
Right, it was, right, that was temporary just to, until regulations could be.
But then,
And that this law was taken from another community?
yeah, then I think I had the Lewisboro law,
Mhm.
and
Joe.
which I had shared, and then I think Joe, I don't know, did Joe share with the project, but anyway, Joe Archino liked that, and he called it,
Mhm.
Yeah, all of this was shared with the Rec and Parks Advisory Committee. I think actually they're together tonight, right now, in a meeting, and it's on their agenda to talk about it, but I did ask them over the past month, or however long this is, a couple of weeks, I guess this has been in existence, to take a look at it, and if there are any comments up front, even before they get together and meet, to pass them along, because we'll be at least looking at this for the first time tonight, so.
So in essence, what we're saying, which is what Lewisboro was saying, is that during these lean months in December, January, February, and March, where there aren't that many people in the park anyway, or in a park anyway, that would be a time that we would allow. And otherwise, it's not allowed.
Well,
They would be registered,
I don't know.
provided they are registered.
yeah, they'd be allowed if they're
Yeah.
registered, yeah.
Right, so they have to register, and then they can only do it during
During
the
those
4-month
months.
period.
Right,
The
and
4 months, though, who came up with the 4 months?
it was in the Lewisboro law, you can make it whatever you want, you can change that.
So the other item that I'm not sure, but I don't see a reference to it anywhere else, is sensing device. It's in the definitions on 13A, but I don't, is it,
Yeah, it's part of the, because you needed it for a drone, I thought. Oh no, unmanned aircraft, it says it doesn't possess any sensing device, so then you have to define sensing device. It's just a definition for one
So
of
it
the other
defines what
definitions.
oh, I
defines
saw,
this
I
term.
did not.
And it's also in drone,
Right.
the word sensing device.
Sensing devices in both places.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay, that's fine, I see.
But there's no magic to those numbers, I mean, at those months.
And are we talking about every park, or are we gonna think about limiting it to certain parks? Are we talking about parks that are open only to village residents, parks that have access where drones might fly into trains on the railroad tracks?
Well, I think,
Or-
yeah, I mean, that's certainly a valid question, and you can certainly have your opinion about that. To me, I think you probably want to wait and hear what RPAC says, if they're, if they're amenable to this at all, and it looks like you're going in this direction, then you'd want to hear what what they have to say as far as which parks. They may have strong feelings about one versus another, but I would think you'd want to hear that.
There's a realistic issue related to trains.
No, I'm just thinking that, if you're in Matheson or Scenic and you're flying something close to a Metro North train that's coming by, or it ends up on the tracks,
Yeah, the chief
and a
pointed
train's
that out.
coming by, that could be a significant safety issue.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, did any other of all the many river towns that have the train, and there are other parks near, Dobbs and Hastings, do they have anything about, they have nothing?
Nobody's got it from, except Lewisburg.
Okay,
Lewisboro's the only
except that
one.
was the only one.
And how long has Lewisboro's law been in
It's
effect?
relatively.
It's pretty recent, but I know.
So they haven't even started flying December, January, February, and March. They haven't even started their
I don't know about that, but I
free
know,
flying period?
I believe that Joe did talk to the recreation director there, and they said that they have, basically limited experience with this. I think there's only 3 people that are registered, is what they said now. And I don't know whether it covered any of these months yet or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But they basically, they had limited experience, so
It's their third local law of the year, I don't know. So maybe it meant it was early on, but there's no date on it.
mhm.
So if the person has to register,
Connie, I'm sorry, let me,
Oh, go ahead,
I just
sorry.
want, I said that they don't have a drone law, but that doesn't mean that those places might not have park rules that say you're not supposed to be flying things, because I
Right,
think
well,
we
don't
do
we
as
have
well.
right now,
Yes.
Well, we have
rules that
motorized-
say motorized vehicles are
Yes.
not allowed.
Yes, so they could have something like
So it
that.
depends how you want to interpret that, but I think we do need to be more specific, given that hundreds of thousands of people are flying jobs.
so the train, I'll be interested in other people's RPAC and others about the train issue. I'm just thinking, a person comes in to register, do they have to have any qualifications, or do they meet face to face with somebody? It's just fill out the thing and I'm allowed? Because there seems like there's
Sort of like the
there's some small danger in everything, right? There's people who walk in the parks in the winter, but if it's a very, very minute chance that something happens, is it worth saying no to everybody?
But isn't this supposed to be, isn't there a federal regulation about drone registration as well?
Over a certain size and near airports is all I can remember reading about.
It's a certain size, as well. It's a recreation
Or height.
version, and, yeah.
There's definitely a height limit on that. But the problem about safety, that it's not just the train. Someone could launch from the park and crash on
Car.
Main Street.
Yeah, right, I'm just saying,
I mean,
a
it could be
pedestrian
anything.
walking on the park or a car, so there's always a chance.
There's a chance.
There's always a
So-
chance of everything.
Right, but Matheson also has a playground, which would be a concern.
Well, so does Santa Hudson.
Santa Hudson has 2 little playgrounds.
Yeah, right.
And you can see them wanting to fly it up, but is that going to be on the playground in the winter months? That's the question.
There are too many,
Never know.
kids in the playgrounds over those months, at least from my walking experience down in those parks.
And
Pretty lonely.
And I will say anecdotally, there aren't a lot of horrible drone accidents I've heard about.
Yeah.
I think that they've worried about it, but I haven't heard about the tragic thoughts and prayers going out to the drone victims, because most of the recreation available ones aren't that heavy, so even if you get a horrific accident where you kind of drop it on someone's head, it might hurt, but it's like I don't think it's necessarily as dangerous. I think the professional ones that could weigh 100 pounds or whatever, those can be really bad, but most of the ones you can go and buy at
That's fine.
Best Buy or Target, a lot of it is big, so it's some of them are indoors, so it's like so I think that I think it's almost like you're regulating a wide variety of things. I think it's great to have something on the books so that we have a 4th of July incident where it is crowded, and we have a very clear law to point to, but I'm thinking maybe agree on which, if we'd like the very short approach or the longer approach tonight, then wait to get more feedback from RPAC, more feedback from the police if they have any, and then go from there rather than continue to drone on to that.
You know, the other thing there, this only says you can't launch or land it in
No,
a park.
that's a comment, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And that wasn't the concern. The concern was,
Flying over.
Well, it was all the above, actually, yeah. Yeah, so Rick Rizzullo wrote, landing, taking off, and flying over is what we had discussed previously, and was wondering if,
well, I don't remember that we did.
no,
that,
but maybe
that's
amongst
what we
themselves
added.
they did, yeah. So,
I think
Do
that
we
makes
also
sense.
need to define a height? I remember a certain height beyond which was like FAA airspace and
400
below
feet.
which. So does that have to be actually defined in our law that you can't fly it higher than a certain height or?
well, is it federal law?
Yeah, you know, I looked at I have the federal law on there, but I actually don't remember it.
The Hudson River would be controlled by the federal state, and who controls
wouldn't we
this?
be preempted anyway? Like,
Yeah, I
In
mean,
other
if there's
words-
a federal law, the federal law applies. Like, there's FAA rules that you can't operate them over human beings, you know? But,
let's write that ticket.
yeah.
Section of the,
A or C. Well, in general, I like the second approach. I think it's much more definitive about what we want.
Yeah, and it lets you
Gives
put
us-
in those
gives us the
exceptions without
exceptions,
making a
exactly.
huge.
Yes.
You could put them in the other thing, but then you never
And I would also
understand
say,
it.
in general, I don't see why these 4 months, couldn't be used. I mean, I think, our parks are certainly less used in that time period. And you know what, we could always start it as a pilot program,
So to
Pun
speak.
intended.
the famous out that rec will use, we'll see how it goes, and we can amend it if we can.
So we're gonna have a dog and drone park.
so
Hopefully it won't scare the dogs.
so the only,
Scare the geese away.
That's a good thing.
the only other exception language in letter E is making sure that the language allows for not just exceptions, to allow the rec department or the board of trustees, however it gets structured, to black out specific days that they may see fit. So even within these months, whatever those months
yeah.
are,
Oh, yeah.
if there's a specific,
We have Decemberfest.
so
Yes.
right, exactly. So if there
Global
are,
warming is going to be 68 degrees.
well, the polar plunge, I mean, whatever that's
Yeah,
called, so that,
Right,
penguin plunge, sorry.
right, that's.
The whole-
So that, for example,
Trademark.
Yeah, but if you, okay, yeah,
so that may be a day where,
that's good.
right, so whatever the
It
exception
should be
language
some, it
is.
should probably should be something like the board could vary these provisions without saying.
I would opt for flexible and not,
Right.
we don't need to be coming here, on February 15th, asking the board, please pass a resolution so that there's no one flying on the day of the polar
Yeah.
plunge.
Who do you want, who do you
Right,
want
I mean,
doing
you know.
that? The board of trustees or the
I
parks
think it's the
department?
Parks
And
Department.
Parks Department.
Tanya, it was me too. Let's get Brian to open them.
Wait a
Okay,
minute, where's my sweater?
Here's a case where I don't.
No, I
think
got
it's
my sweater. That's
Just the parks
Oh, you're-
department. Is it
Thank you,
related to, a film permit? It's gonna, now we're asking for multiple authorities to approve the film permit. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I was only talking about those days that need to be blacked out, but,
Yeah, but if you're talking
but
about the
days to be
exceptions,
permitted, yeah.
yeah,
maybe
parks
Yeah.
department or the
by,
board of
by
trustees.
the,
Yeah.
I don't know,
That's fine.
Parks department or the board of trustees.
or the village administrator could decide.
No, the Board of Trustees, that's fine.
The clerk's not here.
Well, no, because the Board of Trustees is approving film permits, so that's a perfect example of when it might be done, so. And I also, one other question, the paragraph that says, paragraph D, that says, shall not apply for lawful use of operation of drones for federal, state, county, municipal agency. If the village engages its engineer to do a flyover somewhere, that's considered municipal use,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we don't have to come for any exception, that's already covered.
Right.
However, if an
All of
engineer
them.
is working for you at your house and they want to do a flyover, then the
Like,
trustees
yeah,
would have to
GMs.
approve that
Okay,
exception.
so I'll give you an example of
Right.
something that just happened recently, and I know it's happening more and more. Drone flyovers of residential property for use of real estate uses, yeah. So that they can create out, you know,
We
especially
can't
for,
control that, right?
As long as it's not over a park.
Well, this law doesn't, wasn't, yeah.
yeah, I mean, what, so is it legal to fly drones on above private property at this point in Irvington? So, yes.
I think so. If it's not above the size that the
Well,
FAA regulates.
taking away all the
Yeah.
FAA stuff, I'm just wondering if there was any other restriction that we had.
Other than there's an FAA rule about not flying it over people.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem too enforced.
Because I don't want to restrict people from doing things in their own yard if possible. I mean, I
Well,
know.
this doesn't.
Yeah, we weren't trying to, right? It does, the question about, I realize we talked about this from the standpoint of parks only, but the question of whether you can restrict, so any other use over any other public property is not discussed in this law in any way?
No.
Okay. That's fine.
Do we want to think about that? I mean, what's the other problem, you know, DPW, village hall,
Village hall.
fire department,
Roads.
and roads, right?
Rose is a big one.
And those areas of the urban woods that aren't officially park, like the reservoir. Sorry, I mean, is that included in this?
It depends on what we say for, in that blank park, if we make it like the Irvington Woods or.
Yeah, I'm not trying to open up a can of worms, but one thing I would think that we wouldn't, or I would think we'd want to address is someone taking off from their property and going on a tour of Main Street, up and down Main Street. Doesn't seem like you'd want that.
Unless it was permitted.
It's part of the film.
Or whatever, yeah.
Or
This doesn't
just
seem-
hazing the populace.
I realize this wasn't intended, but is it, maybe it's easy enough to say, not permitted over parks or any public property except over parks during these times. I don't know.
You really want, I mean, do you really want a van from ever going on the street? I mean, I didn't get the sense from the last meeting that there was this, you know, appetite to prevent drones.
Well, once my drone,
I that surely would, if you said they couldn't go over streets, it really.
Effectively blocks them in.
Right.
I think it's so.
I mean, I could
I would
write
wanna
it in,
know-
but
I
I
would
don't
want
know.
to know what other
I
municipalities.
hate to be the
Okay.
first
say
New York,
Yeah.
New York municipality that tries to do that.
It's essentially a van, really.
Mm.
Right, if it can't go over a street, it's a street or sidewalk, it really would be essentially be a van.
Well, you could fly up and down your house, your vertical space up to 400 feet. but
Everybody's being.
I think we should leave it at the parks thing and go forward.
Let's start from here,
with-
see if there's issues.
Like you said, get the input from our PAC and comments and,
Well, they could still fly from the school district, right?
yeah, we don't control.
And they go up to the parking lot,
Unless we
Eastfield
said-
parking lot and fly up there. I don't, anytime, right? Unless there's some,
We can't control.
no, I know, but
Their
I'm
property.
sure they don't have a restriction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so,
So this will get modified.
well, should I wait to hear from our pick, or should I modify it and then,
I
you
think,
know, maybe
yeah.
just get it moving, maybe
Yeah,
I'll
I-
make the changes we talked about
especially the
here.
flyover thing, make sure that's in there and that, where instead of
Right.
launch, land, and
Yeah,
flyover,
and then,
let them fill in the blanks.
and then the exception
Yeah.
thing I have to, or the, waiving provisions, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
That's all. And then,
okay.
Good. Now what we need to do, Harry, is get us, each of us a drone so we can have experience with this.
Get one we take home for the weekends, December, January, February,
We would
March.
go for an hour.
Yeah. Make a motion to adjourn, if I get a second. All in favor?
Aye.